Welcome, everyone, to the NoDQ.com live recap of AEW Dynamite for July 30th, 2025, highlighted by the Hangman Adam Page versus Jon Moxley rematch for the World Heavyweight Championship. We had a video package to hype up that match. Stay tuned for my thoughts on that. We opened up the show with a tag team match in this tournament to declare the next number one contenders for the Hurt Syndicate at Forbidden Door. We had the Outrunners getting their full entrance, going up against the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson. They were already in the ring. No entrance for them. Basically, they got the jobber entrance on purpose because they're no longer the EVPs of AEW. And the crowd was even chanting jobbers at them. Also, the screen, it said talent name on it instead of the name of the wrestlers. I have to say, this was creative. I like this, making a parody of the jobber entrance that we've seen so many times over the years. I liked it. Match was fine. Bucks got in a lot of offense on the Outrunners, and at one point, Nick yelled, "See you in hell," before hitting his super kick, and they were yelling at Toni Schiavone for a while. Nick provided some more offense, including a cutter on the floor, but then eventually Turbo Floyd tagged in, got the hot tag, built up momentum. The Outrunners did the "you son of a bitch" elbow, the double elbow, but then Matt with a low blow. Referee didn't see it. Nick then went for a super kick, but accidentally hit Matt, and then the Outrunners delivered the total recall finisher. However, Nick made the save, and then the Bucks were able to pick up the win with the TK driver. Yeah, match was predictable as far as the outcome goes. I did enjoy the stuff with the entrance at the beginning, and the match was solid. I'm not really upset about the Outrunners losing at this point because I think that they peaked 6 months ago. They had a little nostalgia run, even though they're not a nostalgia act. Well, they are, but you know what I mean. They're a new act that's based off of nostalgia, based off of the 80s, a throwback gimmick. And it was always going to have a shelf life. If they were ever going to win the tag titles or anything, that would have been 6 months ago. So it didn't bother me that they lost this one. Now, after the match was over, we had Okada coming out there to help out with a post-match beatdown, but then Swerve Strickland showed up, and it was 3-on-1 against Okada. The Bucks pulled Okada out of the ring, but then Swerve came off the top with a Swerve stomp onto all three men. Swerve getting a little bit of payback on them this week. We then had a backstage segment where Ricochet told Mark Briscoe to focus on him and not MJF. And Briscoe said he's on a warpath. He's going to whip Ricochet's ass on Dynamite. And then said what he was going to do was just a fraction of what was to come for MJF. And then in another part of the building, MJF met with Shelton Benjamin. And MJF said that he was sorry about Bobby Lashley's actions last week. But then Shelton revealed that MVP was not there. He's disgusted with MJF. And then Benjamin pulled out the watch that was given to him from MJF, and he said it's a Temu watch, a knockoff watch, and said the only reason MJF was not laid out months ago was because MVP stuck his head out. And he told MJF to get the hell out of there and said that MJF is out of the Hurt Syndicate. Very odd to me that this would be the end of the group with MJF. feels a little bit anticlimactic, but there's always that part of me in the back of my mind that thinks, okay, is this just to throw people off? And the Hurt Syndicate's going to come out and help MJF at some point in a critical moment. If it's the actual split of the group, it's very lackluster to me. But I'm still holding out hope that this is actually just a ploy in the storyline by MJF and the Hurt Syndicate, and they're making everybody believe they're no longer affiliated, and then we're going to get them helping out MJF. Otherwise, this feels like a waste of time, this whole storyline, if this is how you end it. So I'm hoping that it's all part of a big setup in the end. We had Tony Schiavone interviewing Christian Cage about Adam Copeland and everything going on with the patriarchy, the betrayal. Christian talked for quite a bit, and he did admit that he's an asshole. And at Revolution, when he had a chance to cash in his contract for a title win, he said that he had feelings. He was an asshole with feelings, and it cost him. And he said that were the things he did to Cope really that bad? Because Cope himself has always been an opportunist and should get off of his high horse. And then Christian talked about the patriarchy. He said that if Nick is going to call himself the face of AEW, he has to go through Christian first. And he said that Nick has a dead father and also has a father that is just dead to him. He officially disowned Nick Wayne and the patriarchy, and then he left. But then at the stage, Mama Wayne provided a distraction, which allowed Nick Wayne and Kip Sabian to attack Christian with an ambush. They gave him the concerto, and then Nick said he was the one that was disowning Christian. Crowd chanted F Nick Wayne, which got censored by TBS. I thought it was a good angle. I did like it. I think, number one, Christian rambled a little bit, and he did stutter on his words, which is unlike him. He's usually really strong with the promos. It wasn't his best delivery. I'm not sure why, if he was just having an off night. And yeah, the concerto shot didn't look the best, but that's the problem with doing a steel chair shot to the head. In this day and age, you're really not supposed to be doing that stuff because of the concussions and everything we know about that. So they're very careful with it, but when you do that, it doesn't look as good. So that's the issue there. You could say maybe they should just retire the move if you can't make it look good and you don't want to actually hit the guy in the head. But it's a throwback to Christian and Cope. They did it very safely, and yeah, the camera angle kind of made it obvious that it wasn't even close to connecting. But all in all, I did like the segment, obviously building up the Christian face turn and setting up the Christian and Cope reunion. And Ian, I would hope that your girlfriend is more interesting than Dynamite. I would hope that's the case. I mean, she should be more interesting than any television show, bottom line. We had FTR backstage, and they were interrupted by the Young Bucks, and the FTR basically said the past is the past. They had a handshake. Now, this definitely looks like it might be the finals of this tournament, but maybe there'll be a swerve or something. Time will tell. Not a Swerve Strickland, but somebody will not make it to the finals that we're expecting. But yeah, people are thinking it will be FTR versus the Bucks in the final match. So interestingly enough, 8:50 p.m. Eastern, we had our world title match. They did not put it in the main event spot. And my feeling is they did this because they didn't want the world title match to be predictable with the end time. If they start the match at 9:50, then we're all thinking, okay, it's definitely going to end 10 after 10. So by doing this, we didn't know when the match was going to end. And I actually think this was a good move. They may have lost viewers at the end, but I think it was the right call here to put this on a little bit earlier and keep people guessing how long the match was going to go and what was going to happen and all that. So I did like that idea. Some might argue it should have been the main event. I didn't really have that much of an issue with it. And they did do something significant for the main event, so I'm okay with it. Anyways, it was a pretty long match here. Obviously, being for the world title, they wanted to go out there and do a full-blown, not a real pay-per-view quality match, but it was still really good. They brawled on the outside of the ring a little bit. They exchanged some chops, and then Moxley gave him a pile driver on the steel steps. And then after the commercial break, Moxley tried to put Paige through the table, the announce table, but Paige countered it with a dead eye. And then they got in the ring. Paige delivered a pile driver. Moxley kicked out of it. And then Moxley gave Paige a pile driver on the apron. And then another one in the ring, but Paige kicked out. Lots of pile drivers in this match. I'll just say that. They definitely were doing those pile drivers like the Young Bucks do super kicks. Paige made his comeback, did the moonsault to the outside, and got Moxley back in the ring, hit the dead eye, but guess what? In the process, the referee got knocked down. Death Riders showed up, and they distracted the security. Marina Shafir gave the world title to Paige, or not to Paige, to Moxley. Moxley hit Paige with it. However, we had a kick out from Paige, and then Marina got kicked out of the ringside area, and she was over in the crowd with the Death Riders, and that's when Darby Allin showed up, jumped off the top of the balcony as Darby Allin does. It's what he's known for. Darby takes them out, and then back in the ring, Paige hits a buckshot lariat. Moxley's still fighting, so he hits a dead eye, and then another buckshot lariat, and finally gets the 1-2-3 victory. Adam Page retains the World Heavyweight title in a very good match. And I figured we'd have some shenanigans, and they did a little bit, not too much. It definitely wasn't overkill or anything. They did enough to continue the storyline with Darby Allin, and yeah, I enjoyed the match. I thought it was a very good match. Then at 9:30, we had the women's match of the evening. Athena and Billie Starkz against Toni Storm and Alex Windsor. It was a solid match. Athena did the old routine of tagging out right away and not getting in there with Toni. Toni and Alex were working well together, and then the heels got the upper hand for a while, and then things broke down with all of them in the ring. Toni built up momentum, working over Billie Starkz, but then Athena tagged herself back in. Toni did not see the tag, and then Athena came off the top with the O-face, the jumping stunner, and pinned Toni to get the 1-2-3 victory. I like that Athena got the win here. I feel like with all the injuries right now, this is maybe the best opportunity Athena has gotten since joining AEW. And I'm happy for her that she's finally being utilized like she should be. Like I think her in Ring of Honor was just a big disservice to her. I always liked her. I thought she was one of the potential breakout stars as Ember Moon, and then WWE cut her, which I just didn't understand that. I thought she had the whole package there. So yeah, I'm glad to see her doing well in AEW. And I don't mind Toni losing, because Toni's been winning a lot of matches, and that's how you do it right. You have the champion lose when they've been doing well. You don't have the champion losing like right after they win the title, which we see far too often. So this was good. This was good. Backstage, we had MJF interrupting a promo from Adam Page as he was talking to Renee Paquette. And he said Page is a coward for refusing to face him, but Page made it clear MJF will have to either earn a title match or use that not Money in the Bank contract. And he said that MJF needs to fight Mark Briscoe if he wants a legit title match. And MJF just walked off in disgust. Here's something I'm wondering. Well, we'll talk about MJF. I have a thought on this. We'll get to that in just a minute. Let's talk about our main event, Ricochet versus Mark Briscoe. Now, you had the interference in this match from the GOA. I don't like them. I just don't think that they really bring anything to the table. Also, the name GOA reminds me of DOA, like Dead on Arrival. I hate the name. The act doesn't do anything for me, and I definitely don't like the name. So we had this match with the interference, and then eventually we had Brody King and Bandito coming out there to even the odds, and then Mark Briscoe was able to defeat Ricochet with the J Driller. How about that? Mark Briscoe getting a win. And then after the match, he got on the microphone. He called out MJF. He said he cannot repent if he kills MJF because he will have no remorse. MJF appeared on the big screen, said he has a point to prove because of what Page told him. And he spoke to that Mark Tony Khan. He said they will have a match on next week's show if Briscoe can make it. And at this point, MJF appeared in the ring with the sneak attack, outsmarting the babyface, just saying. And then he said, "Who's the coward now, Hangman?" He pulled out the Dynamite diamond ring. But then Adam Page came out there and Jay Briscoe went for the J Driller. However, MJF was able to escape. And the crowd was chanting coward at MJF as he was running away from Jay Briscoe. And that's the setup for next week. They're back in Cleveland. They're out of Chicago. They're back on the road next week in Cleveland, Ohio. And that was it for Dynamite. I thought it was a much better show than some of their recent offerings. I felt like Dynamite slipped a little bit in recent weeks, but this week, I think they stepped things back up with a strong world title match and a good amount of MJF. And even though I've been feeling a little bit down on MJF as of late, I'm glad they're finally utilizing him more now and putting him in a prominent position. It's just a matter of finding the right direction for his character to take him to the next level. But I am happy to see MJF being more of a focal point now. And I'm happy for Jay Briscoe that he's getting a little bit more TV time too. We'll see what happens with the Hurt Syndicate storyline. Hopefully it's not the end and there's more to this with MJF and Hurt Syndicate. But all in all, I thought Dynamite was a very good show this week. I give it 7 out of 10. Big improvement over some of the recent shows. And as I mentioned earlier, like with MJF, I have this feeling. What if they do MJF versus Adam Page? MJF does earn the title match. Adam Page beats him, but then MJF immediately cashes in after the match and wins the title. I mean, that would be interesting. We haven't really seen something like that to my recollection with Money in the Bank. Maybe it happened years ago, but did we ever have a time where the person with the contract fought the champion, lost, and then immediately attacked them and cashed in and won the title right after that. So I wonder if that's what they're going to do, and maybe Hurt Syndicate helps MJF win the title. We'll see what happens, but they got me intrigued. I will say that. And for the first time in a while, I felt like they had a good cliffhanger for next week, you know, with MJF and Mark Briscoe, giving me a reason to want to see next week's show instead of just throwing a bunch of random matches next week. We actually have an interesting match that has world title implications in it. I thought that maybe they were going to save this for Forbidden Door or something, but they're doing it now. I'm all for that, and I'm looking forward to next week. And I don't say that too often these days. So credit to AEW on that one. Thank you guys for watching tonight. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up on YouTube. Spread the word about the NoDQ.com YouTube channel. Have a great rest of your week, everyone. Say yes to No DQ, and I will see you all next time.